We have one chance to stop them before they reach the colony. The fleet must engage now, Commander.
Understood. We ride at dawn.
The day humanity signed the Concord out of stars, 3 billion people watched the broadcast at once. Children in Lagos, grandmothers in Seoul, fishermen off the coast of Chile, all of them staring at the same flickering hologram of alien delegates bowing to Earth's ambassador. For the first time in history, humanity was not alone. And for the first time in history, humanity believed it had finally arrived. The Interstellar Concord was ancient, 22,000 years of accumulated law, ritual, and quiet cruelty dressed up as diplomacy. Its founding species, the Velcori, had watched 100 civilizations rise and fall beneath their careful stewardship. They called it balance. Everyone else called it control. Humanity was supposed to be another entry in the ledger, another young species to be measured, catalogued, and slowly folded into obedience. Nobody warned the Velcori that humans don't fold. For 18 months, the honeymoon held. Human engineers rebuilt failing terraforming arrays on 3 colony worlds in half the projected time. Human doctors ended a plague on Threnes Minor that alien medicine had failed to touch for a decade. Trade routes opened. Scholarships flooded in. Humanity's flag, a single blue marble stitched in silver thread, began appearing on structures across a dozen star systems. That was the problem. Behind closed doors, in chambers no human had ever set foot in, the Velcori elders convened an emergency session. The topic was not humanity's crimes. Humanity had committed none. The topic was humanity's speed. "They have been among the stars for 18 months, said Elder Bashtu, and they are already teaching us." The room did not need to vote. The decision had already been made in the silence that followed. It began small. A supply convoy bound for a human outpost on Kepler's Reach vanished without a distress signal. Council investigators, Velcori investigators, ruled it a navigational anomaly within 6 hours, an impossibly fast conclusion for a case with zero evidence. Human engineers who examined the wreckage found scorch patterns consistent with directed energy weapons. Their report was filed, reviewed, and quietly buried. Then came the border incident at Aveline Station, where a Velcori patrol vessel accidentally strayed into human territory and was destroyed by automated defense platforms doing exactly what they were built to do. The footage was clear. The intent was not. Within 72 hours, Council media across 900 worlds was airing a very different version of events. Humanity, the story said, had fired first on a peaceful vessel without provocation. Earth's ambassador, a soft-spoken diplomat named Arya and Luflov, stood before the full council chamber and asked for one thing, an independent review of the sensor logs. She was denied, not once, 3 times. That was the moment, not the ambush, not the propaganda, not the sanctions that would follow. That changed everything. Because in that chamber, watching the vote fail for a 3rd time by a margin too clean to be accidental, Ambassador Niklovu understood something the rest of humanity was only beginning to suspect. They had never wanted a partner. They had wanted a pet. The verdict came 11 days later. Humanity, accused, tried, and convicted in a tribunal where it was never permitted to call its own witnesses, was declared a destabilizing element and expelled from Concord protection. Trade routes closed overnight. Colonial supply lines, painstakingly built over a year and a half, were severed without warning. Ships already in transit were ordered to turn back or be fired upon. 12,000 human colonists on 4 worlds went to sleep that night under Concord protection and woke up as fugitives in space that used to be theirs. Ambassador Ntlovu's final address to the council was 31 seconds long. It was later translated into over 400 languages, alien and human alike, and it began like this. "You call us young. You are right, we are young. But you mistake youth for weakness, and history will not be kind to that mistake. We did not come here to conquer. We came here to build. You have taken that choice from us. So now we will build something else." She did not raise her voice once. She did not need to. What happened next was not what the Velcori expected. because they had misjudged the one thing that should have terrified them most. Humanity does not panic in isolation. It organizes. Within 6 weeks, every spacefaring nation on Earth, rivals for a century, signed the Unity Accord, folding their fleets, factories, and research programs into a single command structure, the Terran Defense Initiative. Car factories in Detroit and Chennai retooled overnight into whole assembly lines. Orbital shipyards that had spent a year building solar arrays and colony transports began laying keels for something else entirely. And in the asteroid belt, in the radiation-shadowed dark side of the moon, in facilities that didn't officially exist on any registry, humanity began building a fleet the Concorde didn't know it had the resources, the unity, or the audacity to construct. They called the flagship program Ashwarden. 31 vessels, each one a fusion of salvaged alien drive technology and human ingenuity. Nobody in the Concorde had bothered to study closely enough to fear. Humanity had spent 18 months as students. It turned out they'd also been taking notes, but steel was never going to be humanity's sharpest weapon. Truth was, while the Terran fleet assembled in silence, a second, quieter war was already underway. Intelligence operatives, many of them former code breakers and analysts who'd spent careers cracking human corporate espionage, turned their skills outward for the first time. They found what they were looking for embedded deep in Valkyrie communication relays, unencrypted internal memos discussing the fabrication of the Aveline Station incident, complete with timestamps proving the accidental intrusion had been ordered 11 hours in advance. The leak didn't just reach Earth. It reached every species in the Concorde that had ever quietly wondered whether the Valkyrie's version of balance was really justice, or just the oldest species in the room protecting its seat at the table. Protests broke out on 6 worlds within a day. Smaller species who had spent centuries deferring to Valkyrie judgment began, for the first time, asking questions out loud. The confrontation the galaxy had been bracing for never came in the way anyone expected. There was no grand battle, no fleet of 1,000 ships trading fire across a nebula. Instead, as the Ashwarden fleet emerged from the dark side of the moon, silent, disciplined, and undeniably real, the Valkyrie found themselves facing something far more dangerous than a war they could lose. They faced a war they might win militarily and still lose completely, because the rest of the galaxy was now watching, and the rest of the galaxy no longer believed a word the Council said. An emergency session was called. This time, humanity was invited to speak first. Ambassador Enclovu did not gloat. She did not demand punishment. She asked for exactly what she'd asked for at the beginning, the truth, spoken plainly, with consequences that mattered. The vote to reinstate Earth passed by the widest margin in Concorde history, not because the galaxy had grown fond of humanity, but because humanity had proven something no species had proven in 22,000 years of careful, managed peace, that it would rather burn the whole table down than sit at it dishonestly. Earth was welcomed back into the stars, but it never went back to being the eager, hopeful newcomer it had been 18 months earlier. It returned to something else. A species that had learned, in the space of a single betrayal, exactly how far it was willing to go to protect what it had built. Somewhere in the outer dark, the Ashwarden fleet still patrols, not as a threat, as a promise, because humanity did not come to the stars asking for permission. It came asking for respect, and now, at last, it has both. END.